I thought I knew who betrayed me. I thought Marco was the traitor, Gino was the FBI's rat, and Agent Morrison was pulling all the strings. I was wrong about everything. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, 11 months into my sentence at FCI Odysville. Plain white envelope, no return address, postmarked from a town I'd never heard of. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 7 words that destroyed everything I thought I knew. Vincent, I ordered Marco's death, not you. This is crime drama narration at its most devastating. This is the moment when every betrayal story you've heard gets rewritten. This is the final revelation about power and loyalty, and how the people you trust most are the ones who destroy you. Because the person who sent that letter, I'd trusted them with my life, and they'd been playing me from the very beginning. The prison mail room delivered it during morning count. I was standing in my cell, hands behind my back while guards walked the tier confirming every inmate was present. The envelope landed on my bunk, and I didn't think much of it. I got letters occasionally, from old associates, from lawyers, from people asking for money or favors I couldn't provide anymore. But this one was different. The handwriting on the envelope was elegant, old-fashioned, fountain pen on expensive stationery, not the cheap ballpoint scrawl most people used. I opened it after count cleared, sitting on the edge of my bunk in the 6-by-8-foot cell that had become my entire world. The letter inside was brief. Vincent, by the time you read this, you'll have spent almost a year in prison for a murder you didn't commit. Not because you're innocent, you gave the order after all, but because someone else had already made that decision for you. I ordered Marco's death 3 months before you did. I used Gino to manipulate you into believing Marco was planning to testify. I fed you false intelligence designed to make you pull the trigger. You were never in control, Vincent. You were just the weapon I needed. Why am I telling you this now? Because the game isn't over. Because you deserve to know the truth before the final move. And because in 11 days, something will happen that proves everything I'm telling you. Watch the news on November 15th, then you'll understand. The person who's been playing you from the beginning. There was no signature, no name, just that final line that made my blood freeze. I read the letter 5 times looking for clues about who'd sent it. The handwriting was unfamiliar. The postmark was from Scranton, Pennsylvania, a city with no connection to anyone I knew. The paper was high quality, the kind you bought at specialty stores, not gas stations. This was Mafia confessions at their most cryptic. Someone was claiming they'd orchestrated Marco's death, manipulated me into giving the order, and had been controlling events from behind the scenes the entire time. But who? And why reveal themselves now, after a year of silence? I thought through every person in my organization who could have pulled this off. Bobby was in federal prison, serving 8 years. Angelo was doing 20 after losing at trial. Frankie had flipped and disappeared into witness protection. Uncle Sal was dead, buried 6 months ago in the family plot in Brooklyn. Who was left? Who had the knowledge, the access, the motivation to orchestrate something this elaborate? The answer came to me slowly, like dawn breaking over a landscape I'd been staring at in darkness. And when it finally emerged, I felt physically sick. There was only one person who fit. Only one person who'd been present for every critical moment, who'd had access to all the intelligence, who'd survived when everyone else fell. But it couldn't be. It was impossible. Because if it was true, then everything, the entire story of my life for the past 2 years, was a lie. I couldn't investigate from inside prison the way I would have on the outside. No phones except monitored calls, no internet, no ability to send people to dig up information. But I had resources, connections, ways of getting messages out that even the FBI didn't know about. My cellmate was a guy named Derek Chen, doing 5 years for wire fraud. Smart kid, mid-30s, knew his way around computers before he got caught. More importantly, his sister on the outside owed him favors and wasn't afraid to ask questions. "I need you to research something for me," I told Derek during afternoon rec time when we could talk without guards hovering. "Discreetly, no trail back to you or me." "What kind of research?" "I need to know who visited me in the weeks before I turned myself in. Not official visits, those are logged. I mean who was tracking my movements, who might have been watching me without my knowledge." Derek's eyes narrowed. "That's paranoia talking, Vincent. Nobody's watching you, you're already in prison, the game's over." "The game's never over," I said. "Not in this life. Help me or don't, but if you do, I'll make sure your commissary account stays full and the Aryan Brotherhood knows you're under my protection." He helped. Over the next week, Derek's sister made inquiries. She talked to people in the neighborhoods I'd frequented, showed them photos of known associates, asked subtle questions about who'd been around in those final days before my arrest. The information came back in coded letters that Derek translated for me. The results were disturbing. In the 3 months before I gave the order to kill Marco, someone had been conducting surveillance on my movements. Not FBI surveillance. That was already documented in the case files. This was different. Private investigators, hired watchers, people who'd been tracking me and reporting back to an unknown client. The surveillance had focused on specific moments. My meetings with Gino, my conversations with Bobby, my visits to Uncle Sal's house. Whoever ordered it wanted to know exactly what I knew about Marco's betrayal and when I knew it. Then 2 weeks before I gave the order to kill Marco, the surveillance stopped, abruptly, like whoever was running it had gotten what they needed. "This doesn't make sense," Derek said, reading the latest letter from his sister. "If someone was tracking you to manipulate you into killing Marco, why stop before you actually did it?" "Because they knew I'd do it," I realized. They'd planted enough false intelligence through Gino that my decision was inevitable. They didn't need to watch anymore. They just had to wait. So who's behind it? That was the question that haunted me every night. The letter had promised proof on November 15th, 9 days away now. Whatever happened on that date would reveal the identity of the person who'd been pulling my strings. But I couldn't wait 9 days. I needed answers now. I made a monitored phone call to my lawyer, Richard Stein. The conversation was careful, coded in language that sounded like legal discussion, but meant something else entirely. "Richard, I need you to review the surveillance evidence from my case. Specifically, any footage from 3 months before my arrest." "That's already been reviewed, Vincent, multiple times." "Review it again. Look for patterns, people who appear in multiple locations, anyone who shouldn't be there." There was a pause. Richard was smart enough to hear what I wasn't saying directly. "I'll have my investigator take another look. Is there something specific you want me to find?" "I want you to find who was watching me when I thought nobody was. And Richard, when you find them, don't tell anyone. Not the FBI, not the prosecutors, just me." "Vincent, if this is related to your case." "It's related to my life," I interrupted. "And I need to know the truth before someone else decides to rewrite it again." He promised to look into it, but I knew it would take time, and time was something I was running out of. November 15th was approaching, and whatever revelation waited on that date would change everything. On November 10th, 5 days before the promised revelation, I got a visitor I wasn't expecting. Visiting hours at FCI Odysville happened 3 times a week. I rarely had visitors. Most of my people were either in prison themselves, dead, or keeping their distance to avoid FBI scrutiny. So when the guard told me I had someone waiting in the visiting room, I was immediately suspicious. "Who is it?" "Didn't give a name, just said you'd want to see them." I walked into the visiting room with every nerve on edge. The space was designed to be depressing, Plastic chairs bolted to the floor, vending machines that barely worked, guards watching from elevated stations. Families huddled at small tables, trying to maintain connections across the barrier of incarceration. And there, sitting at a table in the corner, was the last person I expected to see. Carmine Gambino, the old boss I'd met with months ago in Little Italy. The one who'd told me to make a statement or lose his alliance. He looked older than I remembered, more frail, but his eyes were still sharp, still calculating. I sat down across from him slowly, keeping my hands visible, my expression neutral. "Carmine, this is unexpected." "I imagine it is." His voice was rough, like he'd been smoking cigars for 70 years, which he probably had. "You're wondering why I'm here." The thought crossed my mind. "I'm here because you're about to learn something that will make you very angry. And when you get angry in prison, you do stupid things. I'm here to make sure you stay smart." My stomach tightened. "You know what's in the letter?" "I know who sent it. More importantly, I know why." Carmine leaned forward slightly. "Vincent, how much do you know about your Uncle Sal's last few months?" The question threw me. What does Uncle Sal have to do with this? "Everything. Your uncle didn't die of natural causes, Vincent. He died of guilt. Specifically, the guilt of betraying you so completely that he couldn't live with himself anymore." The room seemed to tilt. "What are you talking about?" Salvatore Castellano was the one who ordered Marco's death. He was the one who used Gino to feed you false intelligence. He was the one who manipulated you into giving that order so you'd commit murder on tape and destroy yourself. Carmine's expression was sad, almost pitiful. Your uncle orchestrated your downfall from the beginning, and then, when he saw what it cost you, he couldn't live with the weight of it. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The words made no sense, yet they explained everything. "You're lying," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. "I wish I was. Your uncle came to me 8 months ago before he died, told me everything, said he needed to confess to someone before God took him, said he couldn't let you go to your grave thinking Marco was the only traitor." Carmine pulled an envelope from his jacket, identical to the one I'd received. "He wrote you a letter explaining everything, gave it to me with instructions to deliver it exactly 1 year after you entered prison. But he died before that year was up, so I sent it early. The November 15th date was arbitrary, just a way to give you time to process before the real evidence emerged." "What evidence?" "Recordings. Your uncle recorded his conversations with Gino, his meetings with the FBI, his negotiations with Agent Morrison, everything. He wanted you to hear it in his own words, wanted you to understand why he did it." Carmine slid another envelope across the table. "This contains instructions for accessing those recordings. They're in a safe deposit box in Queens under a false name. Your lawyer can retrieve them." I stared at the envelope like it was a snake. "Why? Why would Uncle Sal betray me?" "Because he believed you were destroying the family, making the same mistakes your father made, too much violence, too much attention, too much pride. He thought if he could break you, humble you, force you to face consequences, you'd emerge smarter, stronger, reformed." Carmine's voice dropped. "He was trying to save you by destroying you, and when he realized he just destroyed you, period, he couldn't live with it." This was dark storytelling at its cruelest. My uncle, the man who'd given me wisdom and guidance, the man I'd trusted more than anyone after my father died, he'd been the architect of my destruction. Not Marco, not Gino, not even the FBI, my own blood. "The FBI knew," I said slowly, piecing it together. "Morrison knew Uncle Sal was feeding me false intelligence through Gino. The FBI encouraged it. Agent Morrison met with your uncle 6 times. They had an arrangement. He'd manipulate you into committing crimes on tape, and in exchange, she'd protect him from prosecution. He died before she could keep her end of the bargain." "And Gino?" "Gino was exactly what he told you, an FBI informant. But he was also Uncle Sal's man. Sal recruited him, convinced him to work with the FBI, then used him to feed you the lies about Marco planning to testify. Gino didn't know he was working for both the FBI and your uncle. He thought he was just following FBI orders. I felt like I was falling through space. Every betrayal, every loss, every decision I'd made in the past 2 years, all of it orchestrated by the man who was supposed to protect me. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked Carmen. "What do you gain?" "Nothing, I gain nothing. I'm 83 years old, Vincent. I'll be dead within a year, maybe 2. I don't need gains anymore." He stood up slowly, joints creaking. "I'm telling you because your uncle asked me to, because he wanted you to know the truth, even if it destroyed whatever love you had left for him. He said you deserved that much. And despite everything, I believe he was right." Carmen walked away, leaving me alone at that table with 2 envelopes that contained the complete unraveling of my life. I had my lawyer, Richard Stein, retrieve the safe deposit box the next day. The recordings were on old cassette tapes. Uncle Sal's generation didn't trust digital formats. Richard converted them to digital files and brought them on an approved tablet during his next legal visit. I listened to them alone in a private attorney-client room, wearing cheap headphones that hurt my ears. Uncle Sal's voice came through the speakers, clear and unmistakable. Recording 1. Uncle Sal and Gino Marino, date unknown. "Sal, you understand what I'm asking you to do." "Gino, you want me to tell Vincent that Marco's planning to testify, even though that's not true." "Sal, it's true enough. Marco's dirty. He's feeding information to the Lucchese family, meeting with FBI, exploring his options. We're just accelerating the timeline, making Vincent see the threat before it becomes terminal." "Gino, Vincent will kill him if he believes Marco's planning to flip." "Sal, exactly. And when he does, the FBI will have him on tape ordering a murder. Vincent will face real consequences for the first time in his life. He'll learn that actions have prices." "Gino, this feels wrong, Sal. Vincent trusts you." "Sal, that's why it has to be me. Because I'm the only one who loves him enough to destroy him for his own good." Recording 2. Uncle Sal and Agent Rebecca Morrison, FBI office. "Morrison, you understand that what you're proposing is conspiracy to commit murder." "Sal, I understand I'm helping you build a case against my nephew that you've been trying to build for 3 years. In exchange, you give me immunity and protect my assets." "Morrison, and you're certain you can manipulate Vincent into ordering Marco's death." "Sal, I know my nephew better than he knows himself. Give me Gino as my instrument, and I'll give you Vincent Castellano on a silver platter." "Morrison, what you're doing to your own family, doesn't that bother you?" "Sal, every day, but my brother Vincent's father died because he couldn't see when the game changed. He kept playing by old rules in a new world and it killed him. Vincent's doing the same thing. If I don't stop him, he'll die too. Prison is mercy compared to the alternative." Recording 3. Uncle Sal alone, speaking into recorder. "Sal, Vincent, if you're hearing this, then I'm dead. Good, I deserve to be. What I did to you, there's no justification that makes it right. I told myself I was saving you, protecting you from your own worst instincts. But the truth is simpler and uglier. I was afraid. Afraid you'd end up like your father. Afraid the family would fall. Afraid of losing everything we'd built over 4 generations. So I made a deal with the devil. I used your trust against you. I manipulated you into committing murder so the FBI would have leverage to force you into a plea. I thought if I could break your pride, humble you, show you that you weren't invincible, you'd emerge better, smarter, reformed. Instead, I just broke you, and I have to live with that for whatever time I have left. I'm sorry, Vincent. Those words mean nothing, I know, but they're all I have left to give you. I'm sorry for the betrayal. I'm sorry for using your love against you. I'm sorry for becoming exactly what I always taught you to despise. The only gift I can offer now is the truth. Everything you thought you knew about Marco's betrayal, about Gino's intelligence, about the FBI's trap, it all traces back to me. I was the architect of your destruction, not Morrison, not Marco, not Gino, me. And if there's any justice in whatever comes after this life, I'll pay for it forever." The recording ended. I sat in that attorney room with tears I didn't remember crying running down my face. This was Underworld tales at their most devastating. The revelation that the person you trusted most, the person who raised you and guided you and taught you the code, was the one who destroyed you. Uncle Sal had betrayed me more completely than Marco ever could, because Marco's betrayal was about ambition and survival. Uncle Sal's betrayal was about love twisted into something toxic and controlling. He destroyed me because he loved me, and somehow that made it so much worse. I spent 3 days processing the recordings before I could think clearly again. Derek gave me space, understanding without being told that something fundamental had shattered. The other inmates avoided me, sensing the darkness that radiated from my cell. On the 4th day, I called Richard Stein again. "I've listened to the recordings. I need you to do something for me." "What?" "I need you to leak them to the press. All of them. Uncle Sal's conversations with Gino, his meetings with Morrison, everything." Richard was silent for a long moment. "Vincent, if we release those recordings, it could reopen your case. The FBI's use of your uncle as an informant while actively encouraging him to manipulate you into committing murder, that's outrageous government conduct. We might be able to get your conviction overturned." "I don't want my conviction overturned." "What?" "I gave the order to kill Marco, that's a fact. Yes, I was manipulated. Yes, the FBI used illegal tactics. Yes, my uncle orchestrated the whole thing, but at the end of the day, I still made the choice. I still pulled the trigger, metaphorically speaking." My voice was steady now, calm. "I'm not looking for a legal loophole to escape responsibility. I'm looking for the truth to be told. Let people know what the FBI did. Let them know what Uncle Sal did. But don't use it to free me. I deserve to be here." "Vincent." "This isn't negotiable, Richard. Release the recordings, expose the corruption, but make it clear that I'm not seeking to overturn my plea. I accepted responsibility for my actions and I'm going to serve my time. That's the end of it." Richard argued for another 10 minutes, but eventually agreed. The recordings were released to major news outlets the next day. The reaction was explosive. The New York Times: FBI informant manipulated nephew into murder to build RICO case. The Washington Post: Mafia boss's uncle orchestrated betrayal, FBI cooperation. CNN: Recordings reveal conspiracy between FBI and crime family member. Agent Morrison was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. 3 other FBI agents who'd worked with her were suspended. The Inspector General opened a formal inquiry into the entire operation. But the biggest impact wasn't legal or political. It was personal. The recordings revealed that everything I'd believed about Marco's betrayal was partially false. Yes, Marco had been feeding information to the Lucchese family. Yes, he'd met with lawyers about witness protection, but he'd never actually agreed to testify. He'd been exploring options, trying to find a way out of the life, but he hadn't crossed the line. I'd killed him for a betrayal he hadn't committed yet, and Uncle Sal had manipulated me into doing it. The guilt of that realization was crushing. More crushing than prison, more crushing than the loss of my empire, more crushing than any physical punishment could ever be. I'd become exactly what I'd always despised. A man who killed based on lies, who let others manipulate him into violence, who destroyed someone for a crime they hadn't actually committed. 2 months after the recordings went public, I got another visitor. This time, I knew who it would be before I entered the visiting room. Marco's daughter, Isabella, 23 years old, with her father's eyes and her mother's gentle features. I'd never met her before. Marco had kept his family separate from the business, protected them from our world as much as he could. She sat across from me with her hands folded on the table, her expression unreadable. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. "I'm surprised you wanted to see me. I'm the one who ordered your father's death." "You're the one who thought you ordered his death, but you didn't really. My Uncle Sal did. He used you like a puppet." Her voice was steady, neither forgiving nor condemning. "I've listened to the recordings. I've read the news coverage. I understand what happened." "Understanding doesn't change what I did." "No, it doesn't, but it provides context." Isabella pulled out a photograph and slid it across the table. It showed Marco with a young girl, maybe 5 years old, both of them laughing at something outside the frame. This was taken 2 weeks before he died. We'd gone to Coney Island, just the two of us. He told me he was thinking about changing his life, getting out of the business, moving somewhere quiet, starting over. The photo was a knife in my chest. He never got that chance because of me. Because of your uncle, because of the FBI, because of a system designed to destroy people like you and my father. She took the photo back. "I'm not here for revenge, Mr. Castellano. I'm here because my father made me promise something before he died. He said if anything ever happened to him, I should find you and tell you something." "What?" "That he forgave you, in advance, for whatever you felt you had to do." Her eyes glistened. "He knew the life you both lived didn't allow for mercy or second chances. He knew that if you ever believed he'd betrayed you, you'd have to kill him. And he said he understood, that it wasn't personal. It was just the way things worked." I couldn't speak. The weight of her words was too much. "My father was many things, Mr. Castellano, not all of them good, but he understood power and loyalty better than most people. He knew that in your world, perception becomes reality, and once you perceived him as a traitor, his fate was sealed." Isabella stood up. "I came here to release you from whatever guilt you're carrying, not because you deserve it, but because my father would want me to. He'd want both of you to find peace, even if that peace comes too late." She walked away, leaving me alone with the photograph I'd already memorized. Marco and his daughter at Coney Island, 2 weeks before I'd sent him to his grave. This was crime family drama at its most human. Not about power or money or territory. About fathers and daughters, uncles and nephews, the bonds that tie us together and the betrayals that tear us apart. Marco had forgiven me before I'd even ordered his death. He'd understood the system we lived in, accepted its brutal logic, and released me from guilt I didn't even know I'd carry. But Uncle Sal had destroyed me because he loved me, and somehow that was the betrayal I couldn't forgive. I'm writing this in year 2 of my sentence, 8 more years until I'm eligible for parole. The empire is gone. The 5 families have been reorganized, territories redistributed, old alliances dissolved. The Castellano name means nothing on the streets anymore. But I learned something in this prison that I never learned on the outside. The truth about power and loyalty. Power isn't what I thought it was. It's not control or fear or the ability to make others obey. Real power is self-knowledge. Understanding your own weaknesses before others can exploit them. Seeing the cage clearly so you can decide whether to accept it or break free. And loyalty. Loyalty is the most dangerous currency in our world, because the people you're loyal to can destroy you more completely than any enemy. Uncle Sal's loyalty to me, his twisted, toxic, misguided loyalty, did more damage than Marco's betrayal ever could. The code we lived by, the Mafia confessions we whispered to justify our violence, the underworld tales we told to make ourselves feel noble, it was all a lie. Or not a lie, exactly. A story. A narrative we constructed to give meaning to choices that had no real meaning beyond survival. I killed Marco because Uncle Sal manipulated me into it. Uncle Sal manipulated me because he loved me. He loved me because that's what family does. And family in our world is the thing that destroys you. That's the final betrayal, not the obvious one where enemies attack and rivals scheme. The quiet one, where the people who love you most decide they know better than you what your life should be. where they take your choices away in the name of protection, where they destroy you to save you. Uncle Sal died believing he'd failed, that his plan to humble me and reform me had only broken me. He was wrong. He didn't break me, he freed me. Because now I see clearly what I couldn't see before. This life, this world, this code, it was always a prison. Not the literal prison with bars and guards and razor wire. The metaphorical one. The cage built from loyalty and honor and tradition, where everyone claims to be family while systematically destroying each other. Uncle Sal thought he was saving me from my father's fate. Instead, he showed me that my father's fate was inevitable for anyone who stayed in the cage. You either died violently like him, or you died slowly like Uncle Sal, eaten alive by guilt for the betrayals required to survive. I chose a third option. I left. Not physically. I'm still here in FCI Odysville, will be for another 8 years at least. But mentally, spiritually, I left that world behind. When I get out, I won't rebuild the empire. I won't reclaim territory or reestablish the Castellano name. I'll walk away from all of it, find somewhere quiet, live whatever years I have left without the weight of power and loyalty crushing me. Marco understood that before I did. That's why he was planning to leave to start over. He saw the cage and wanted out, and I killed him for having the courage I lacked. But his daughter's visit gave me something I didn't expect, permission to let go. Marco forgave me before I killed him. He released me from the debt I owed him. And in doing so, he gave me the only gift that mattered, freedom from the story I'd been telling myself about who I had to be. The recordings Uncle Sal left revealed the mechanism of my downfall, but Marco's forgiveness revealed the path forward. I don't know if that's redemption or just a different kind of damnation. Maybe in our world they're the same thing. Maybe the only way to be redeemed is to accept that you're damned and choose to live differently anyway. 8 more years. Then I walk out of here into a world that's forgotten the Castellano name, and I'll be grateful for that forgetting, because the worst prison isn't the one with walls. It's the one built from stories about honor and loyalty and family, where everyone's a prisoner and no one has the key. Uncle Sal tried to save me by destroying me. In the end, he did both. And now I have to figure out how to live with that truth for the rest of my life. The real final betrayal. There's one more thing, something I discovered 3 weeks ago that changes everything I just wrote. I was cleaning out my cell, organizing letters and documents, when I found something strange tucked inside the Bible the prison chaplain had given me months ago. An envelope I'd never seen before, wedged between Psalms and Proverbs. Inside was a letter in Uncle Sal's handwriting, but it wasn't the confession from the recordings. It was something else, something he'd written the day before he died. Vincent, if you're reading this, then you've heard the recordings. You know what I did. You hate me for it. Good, you should. But there's one more truth you need to know. One more betrayal I couldn't bring myself to reveal in the recordings because it would destroy the last thing you have left. Your father didn't die in a random hit by rival families. I killed him. Not directly, but I gave the Genovese family the information they needed to ambush him. I told them where he'd be when he'd be vulnerable, how many men he'd have with him. I orchestrated his death the same way I orchestrated Marco's. Why? Because he was going to start a war that would have destroyed all of us. He was making deals with the Russians that the other families couldn't tolerate. He was bringing heat we couldn't survive, and he wouldn't listen to reason. So I made the same choice I made with you. I destroyed him to save the family. Your entire life, Vincent, has been shaped by my betrayals. I killed your father to protect our organization. Then I manipulated you into destroying yourself for the same reason. Every major turning point in your life traces back to me pulling strings you couldn't see. And the worst part, I'd do it again. Because that's what power and loyalty really mean in our world. Not protection, not family, just control. The powerful controlling the weak, the old manipulating the young, everyone pulling strings and calling it love. You asked me once what your father would think of the man you became. The truth, I made sure you never had the chance to find out. I killed him before he could finish raising you. Then I raised you myself, molded you into a version of him I could control. You were never free, Vincent, not for a single day of your life. You were always my creation, my weapon, my attempt to fix what I'd broken when I killed your father. I'm sorry, I know those words mean nothing, but they're all I have left. When you get out of prison, don't rebuild the empire. Don't reclaim the Castellano name. Walk away from all of it. Be free in a way I never let your father be, in a way I never let you be. That's the only redemption either of us can hope for. Salvatore. I burned that letter in the toilet after I read it, flushed the ashes, and never spoke of it to anyone. Not my lawyer, not Derek, not anyone. Because some betrayals are too complete to survive, some truths too devastating to share. My father was murdered by my uncle. My entire life was orchestrated by the man I trusted most. Every choice I thought I was making freely was actually a manipulation. And the only way I can keep living is to pretend I never learned that final truth. That's the real final betrayal, not the one everyone knows about, the secret one, the one I'll carry alone until I die. This is where the story ends, where crime drama narration meets unbearable truth, where betrayal stories reveal that the deepest betrayals are the ones we can never speak aloud. Power and loyalty destroyed 3 generations of Castellanos, and the 4th generation, if there ever is one, will never know why. Because some secrets are too dark even for confessions. The family story is over, but the weight of what really happened, that never ends. Vox Narration, dark storytelling, Underworld tales, the truth no one wants to hear.